Hey, wow, look who decided to show up. Me. it's it's been a while and I'm really glad to be back. Welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen where we meet every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern and we just try to dig in. I don't show up with all the answers, that's for sure. I'm just here to host the meeting. We've been doing this for going on 2.5 years now, almost every Friday with occasional drops, but I've had a great co-host, if you will, stand in the last few weeks while I've been busy broadcasting football games. And David Paskin, just want to publicly say thank you so much for being such an incredible and willing host. And I think you do it a whole lot better than I do, quite honestly. You've got a great face for the camera and personality and the whole bit, and super sharp on Zoom and Ecamm, where I'm strong on Zoom and vMix and the ZoomISO. I'm getting there, getting better, and ZoomOSC as well. But it certainly sunk in with me this week that some benefits, like some solid benefits that I could talk about, and I think the explanation would resonate with people why Zoom ISO. And so some of you may have seen the article that I published yesterday about that. I just said I ended my job and I started writing, and I'm not a writer, but I really just needed to get that out there and share it with folks because it just made it didn't what I was doing didn't make so much sense that it kind of drove me nuts, and I'll explain that here a little bit more. But let's say hi to everybody and get some introductions going as well. The one real quick thing I want to do is take a look at what version are we on with Zoom right now? 5.12.4, I think. Da, 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 da. Checky for updates. I'm looking, it says I'm up to date, 5.12.3. So I'm up to date on my PC on that. But the reason I bring that up, I don't always start that way, but is I'm seeing some more indicators up on my screen as the host of streaming and the common original sound for musicians, and remove spotlight, those are gimmies. Recording, that's a gimme. It has a live icon up there and a drop down right next to that, that currently says YouTube, so it's streaming on YouTube. I can stop the stream, I can view the stream, or I can copy the stream link. So it's kind of out there in front of me and convenient now too. So just kind of wanted to point that out. And I think a little bit of that is some enhancement along the way. So let me drop the spotlight and say hi to some folks. Some I certainly recognize, some I don't know if I know, but welcome. And we're going to say hi if you're able to jump on and say hi, or you can just do it audibly if you can't get on with your video as well. But I'll start with my favorite co-host who manages the waiting room for me for who knows how long time is Ray Franklin. Ray, how are you?
Been great, Jeff. Good to see you back. You've been a busy guy.
I have, and I always feel like I can and would be busier if I could, but there have certainly been times where things have been keeping me pretty busy. Now I'm all excited about going to Zoomtopia in a week or so and see how much information we can gather
Are you going to
there.
attend in person?
I am, yeah,
All right.
yeah, yeah. So
Good for
there's
you.
Zoom has this category, so community.zoom.com or community.zoom.us is a board where you can post and ask questions and hopefully get answers and so forth. And I think they've got over 170,000 members, signed on to that. And so I spend some time on that when I can and answer as many questions as possible and so forth. And so I don't know what it takes to get there, but apparently I got there, and they designate me and several others, community champions, and with that, there's two of us as us being champions, and there's a lot of champions these days, and they continue to grow that. But Denise Lahat from Israel, who she hosts the Zoom events group on Facebook, and she's I thought I was traveling. I'm traveling from Kansas City to San Jose, which is nothing compared to Denise, who's flying in from Israel. But needless to say, it'll be fun to meet her in person, and that's probably my hot spot, is being able to network with all kinds of folks. I don't know what the attendance is going to be, a few thousand maybe, but probably not super huge in that sense, to where you get a pretty good opportunity to meet just about anybody you want to. So that will be that'll be exciting. So anyways, let's see who's next on my gallery view. Got Kuhn. Kuhn, how are
Hi.
you?
Yes, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Good.
Great to see
Glad
you
to have
again.
you. Glad to
You've
have
got
you here.
new hair on your head, isn't that?
I haven't shaved it lately.
Ah.
So it's actually kind of
Okay.
fuzzy up there
Looks
right
great.
now.
Looks great.
Yeah, thanks. I used to, believe it or not, I mean, I could probably pull up pictures even. I've always had a big forehead. I've always had this receded look. I'm not losing my hair, from front to back, and it'll grow out just fine. But I used to have it all, slicked back and very, very corporate leadership, I guess. I don't know, whatever one might interpret that as. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's too much work, and yeah, so I lean over the sink and shave my head and call it good for a few weeks, and then do it
Okay.
again. So good to have you here, Mike. Mike Lotta. Is it Lotta or
Hello there,
Latta?
Jeff. Welcome back. You've been a
Yeah,
busy
thank you.
boy.
Yeah, yeah, good to see you. And Mike, remind me where you connect in from.
I'm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
That's right. That's right. And then next to you on my screen is Robert Sabavity out of Poland. Robert, welcome.
Thanks. It's good to see you again. It's been nice to see you dropping into the previous meetings for a brief moment.
I could
It was
drop
really
in
nice.
for a little while.
Couldn't stay away.
No, it's really hard not to be a part of it. There's so much to learn and talk about and figure out. It's not just a discussion, right? I mean, those who have been here know that sometimes we just dig in and it just turns into a live exercise, and that will probably be exactly what it is today, with some time spent on ZoomISO and so forth. Is I'm learning this on the fly as well, and enhancing my skills, and I'll share them with you guys, and those who have had your hands on it can do exactly the same. So be prepared to share and contribute and ask and so forth. It'll be a good time. Mark Fitchell. Mark, how are you?
It's pronounced Fichtel.
Fichtel, welcome, and thank you for that.
I'm fine.
The closer you got to the camera, the better it adjusted from that backlight you've got.
Yeah.
So we got to actually see.
This is the first time I've been on, as opposed to, seems you have your large group of followers.
Yeah.
And I'm here because I have a particular issue that arose
Very good.
this past week. So
very good.
When
Well,
we
you
get a
said it.
chance.
You said it first, so you're first in the queue, Mark. As far as when we finish some hellos here, we'll come right to you and
That's fine.
tee that up. That's the way we fly here. That's exactly why we're here, is to help each other, learn and solve problems and so forth. So, Joe, how are you, Joe?
Very good. Thank you, sir. Good to see you, Jeff. Hi, gang.
Yeah. Very good. And Hasmuk, all the way from South Africa. How are you?
Hey, Jeff. Good to see you from Cape Town.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Very good. My as far as distance is what the trigger of this comment is my daughter got married last Saturday, and they had a heck of a time getting out of town due to American Airlines, but they finally jumped on a Southwest flight down to Texas and then jumped out of the country, and they flew first to Tokyo, and they had never been in. And that was a long flight. That was like the longest flight I had ever tracked on my computer. It was hours, 12 or 13 hours, I think, to Tokyo.
You ought to try it sitting in the seat, not watching the computer.
Yeah,
It's
no
big
kidding.
difference.
No
How many movies
kidding.
can you watch?
Well, and because they were let down so poorly from American Airlines getting out of town, they lost their business class ticket that they had purchased, and so that added to the pain. So but then they finished their connections, two more connections to where they finally landed in Thailand, is where they're spending their honeymoon. And this morning they just texted us a bunch of pictures, and they were muddy, like they were literally wading around in mud pits with elephants, and they were washing them and feeding them, and it's like it was a elephant reserve and sanctuary, they call it as well. So it was quite cool. Like, what a unique experience. I don't know if I would have ever tied that to a honeymoon, but at the same time, it's all about unique experiences and memories. So that was kind of cool. All right. Well, Hasmik, welcome. And David Paskin, my favorite stand-in host. How are you, bud?
Thank God, I'm doing okay. Doing
Yeah,
okay. I was so excited to read your article because I had just finished trying to convince some folks about why ZoomISO was so important, and you just summarized it beautifully.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was the work experience this last week or two. It just, unbeknownst to me, I wasn't looking for it, but the issues popped up, and they got resolved. But the way they resolved versus what the article says is like it was a no-brainer, a total no-brainer. So we'll talk about that, and I appreciate your feedback on that. It hit me. I mean, I immediately said, "Hey, thanks, guys. See ya," and started typing. And I don't ever do that, but I was really compelled to kind of share that. Frank, how you doing? Good to see you.
Good, thank you.
And you're coming in on a 4x3. Are you on a mobile device?
No, I think I need to have a
It
look at my
just
settings.
popped up. No, it just on my screen, it just popped from 4x3. That's happened to me twice. It happened to one of the panelists the other day. I told them they were 4x3, and I'm assuming you might be on a mobile device. And
No, I have a
the moment-
4K camera.
The moment I said it and he talked, boom, it popped up into high def. So I think there might be a little bit of issue or something there. But anyways, good to have you here. John Drinkwater, you aren't on camera. I don't know if you're able to just say hi on audio. There you are.
Yeah.
How are you, sir?
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all.
No.
I've been busy, so I've missed a couple of weeks, but as it's on YouTube, you can always catch up, which is great.
Yeah, very good. Glad to have you here. I've got some name onlys. I've got Richard, Tracy, Marty, John, Susan. I got one more, Rohit. If any of you can pop on, there's Susan to say hi and introduce yourself.
Hi there.
Great. How are you?
Hi. Good. I read your article. It sounds really intriguing. And I'm really excited to learn more about the ZoomISO because I could see where that could come in really handy.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are you coming to us from?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, very good. I'm in Kansas City, but we moved here from Los Angeles. I pretty much grew up in El Segundo. I was born in Inglewood and
Wow.
the whole South Bay there. So I miss it. I like to visit it, but I don't desire to
I was going to say it's probably more sane not being
battle
here.
the living there.
Yes.
For sure. But the weather's a give, that's for sure. The weather can be nice.
Yep.
So very good. It doesn't look like anybody else turned on camera, so we'll leave that alone. But yeah, we have Tracy. Hi, Tracy. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm also from Los Angeles, Carson. to be exact, but I'm now in Birmingham, Alabama.
Ah, very good.
Nice to meet everyone.
Yeah. Well,
Having a bad hair day, so I'm gonna go off camera.
That's one way. That's one way to cure it, huh? There you go. How did you learn about the Zoom Test Kitchen, if I might ask?
I believe Facebook some time ago.
Okay.
I've just been unable to join you, but today is a good day for me. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Well, thanks for making the effort. Glad to have you here.
Appreciate you.
Hey, Jeff, could you make my ISO machine a co-host or give it recording privileges?
You bet. Just one moment. David Paskin, ISO. There you go. And please realize what just happened. You know, if you want to test things out with ZoomOSC or ZoomISO or whatnot, now some of those things will affect the visibility of our program or get together. So give us a heads up. But there's times I've given host to somebody else. There's definitely times where I provide co-host to others and so forth. And with that, that's what we're here for, is to to really kind of get our hands on things, and so it's not always you're not always in, if you will, the student seat. You can be the host and the whole bit. It's be a full experience. Rohit from India, you've been here before, right? But it's just been a long time. I haven't seen you. Good to see you.
Hi, Jeff. Yeah, so I was here when the version 1 released last year.
Yeah.
And yeah, and been testing it from then, and after that, it's been a while now.
Yeah,
So
very, very good. Well, welcome back. And you're right, and version 1 to version 2 is, boy, a lot, not a lot. I don't want to just say a lot different. I mean, so far it's proven to be, stable, reliable, faster refreshes on people, entering the meeting, things like that. And I have it sitting over here. So my setup, my primary, the meeting is being hosted on what we refer to as the vanilla Zoom client. And so that is my main PC. And if I might ask, David, do you have time to like manage either active speaker or spotlight or whatnot?
I do, but I can't because we're recording this. So we need to pause the recording so my ZoomISO can get in and get permissions, and then I'm happy to, of course.
All right, it is paused.
yeah. I think that's one thing. Like if you're doing cloud recording, you can't use ISO. I think that's one thing. And the first thing which I saw on version 2 was the panel, all the attendees coming in alphabetical order, which was not there in version 1. So it makes it a lot more easier to pin people.
Yeah, for sure. And so what David didn't say, but is what happened and why he experienced not being able to begin to use ZoomISO, is because the recording was started prior to his ZoomISO client attempting to connect. If he was in and the ZoomISO client connected and then I started the cloud record, it would be a non-issue. And so that's just a note for kind of order of events, during setup and all. All right. Let me, David, let's see, David, I need to find your other David.
Jeff, can I just make a quick comment?
I'm going to make you host, so that since you're controlling spotlighting, you're also pretty much controlling the recording, and I'll let you manage that. So, because I want to flip back to gallery view and so forth occasionally. All right. Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
I've just realized, because I have an additional screen, so I'm using an additional monitor on Zoom, what the statistics are showing. Because it's always been really strange to me that I can't figure out which monitor the statistics are actually referring to. Mm-hmm. And now you are coming through at 720p. David Paskin's coming through at 1080. Now I've got David pinned to a second monitor, And when I pin you to the main monitor, I suddenly get you coming through and the stats say 720. And I get use.
Unpin David and only pin me and see if it takes me to 1080 by chance.
To know what you've done, David, I've lost the ability to pin anyone.
Oh, sure. Blame the host. I haven't done anything.
Go ahead, David, if you would grant him multi-pin privileges. And
how do I grant you multi-pin? But
it's one of those options next to his name.
Look at that. Allow a multi-pin. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, multi-pin is not a default permission. You can pin, but you can't multi-pin by default.
Okay, so I've pinned you, Jeff, and you're at 720, and you're on my second screen. And when I pin David Paskin to my first screen, the stats change to my first screen stats. In other words, 1080.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never even really thought about, what it at the moment, what it's reading as far as that video resolution. But now, is anybody well, David's 1080. I don't quite know why I'm coming across at 720, but now if you unpin David, does my 720 change? I'm watching it on my end as well on the send side of things. Tell me when you're there. No, I'm not seeing any changes on my side. So I'm not, I'm definitely, 1080 capable, and my vMix is sending out 1080 to Zoom. So not quite sure what, it's kind of the ongoing mystery of, how things are. They're pretty dynamic, as we know, and we know a lot of the requirements to gain some tests, like, hey, Zoom support has enabled HD, why aren't I seeing it? Well, then it's all about that whole path and what, is there somebody out there asking for it and so forth. But good point there. John Idelson, I got to pause and say hi to John. How are you,
Greetings
sir?
from beautiful Monterey. I'm doing fine.
Sirree. Will I see you at Zoomtopia?
You will see me at Zoomtopia. I'm looking forward to it.
Very cool. Maybe we can take a ride in your little front and back seat.
I don't know if I'm going to make it in my little little FUV, but the D10 just put out an email that if you registered for Zoom for $300 and attend their session, they'll pay you $300. So it's free to go to Zoomtopia.
Wow, they're making it free. That's pretty cool. Yeah, because there is that $300 offer, and so they're reimbursing you that. That's way cool.
The problem now is
finding a meeting, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's not a bad meeting. It's their 131.
Kind of like a timeshare thing, right? Go spend some time with them, and we'll give you something. So no, but that's good. They make some terrific solutions. So if there's any interest at all, that's a great deal. Good deal. And on my gallery, I've got Colin, who I do not know. I want to say hi and let you introduce yourself.
Hello.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you like a radio host. Such a smooth voice.
Do I sound okay? Because this is the first time I've actually hooked myself up to a microphone in front of a camera. I'm usually behind it.
Yeah, no, you sound great. Your environment looks lovely and the whole bit. Where are you coming to us from?
I'm in the lovely, I'm based in a small island just off the Atlantic called Ireland, the Emerald Isle. I'm not sure if any of you have had the opportunity to come visit.
What part of Ireland?
I'm based in Dublin, which is the capital on the East Coast. We're all I suppose like any major country capital, that's where everything goes on basically. And I'm just about getting up to speed on this side of things. I'm so used to at this moment inside being on the other side, configuring ZoomISO. And what's fabulous about this is the fact that I'm getting to meet so many fabulous new people through this desire to find and optimize what I'm doing. And it's literally, this is the first time I've actually spoken in here. I've just peeked my head in the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
And now that I've got my mic set up, I'm kind of like eager to chat, talk, share ideas.
So what sort of work do you do there in Ireland?
Oh, I have a full broadcasting studio here, where we do everything from virtual events, podcasting, audiobooks, photography, full photography, everything from e-commerce, photography, fashion photography, all that kind of good stuff.
Sure.
And at this moment in time, we've just finished ripping everything out. Now we have a full 12G set up here in the studio. And then we have a full Nest where I actually broadcast everything from. And I suppose like a lot of us, I'm relatively new to all this in the last couple of years, just pre-COVID. And so I have a full broadcasting studio, full 4K workflow. I have 6 or 7 URSAs here in the studio for broadcasting. And now I'm jumping into ZoomISO because I'm been doing a lot of Zoom over COVID, like a lot of you guys. And I'm just finding my way through some of the settings now to really optimize it and make use of it, to really, I suppose, see what the future may hold for us all. We could even be sharing our own talks, chats, just like we are here, but more on the conventional channels. Who knows, over the top. We'll see what the future has. Anyway, a pleasure to meet you all.
Yeah. Likewise. Glad to have you here in the Zoom Test Kitchen for sure. And a quick hello to Emmanuel, and we'll get back to some discussion. But Emmanuel has since popped in. I want to say hello. If you'd like to chat back and say hi, you're certainly welcome to. All right. Well, very good.
Hey, Jeff, John has his hand up. I don't know if you want to pull him up.
Go. Yeah, John.
I just want to offer my services to you in Ireland. I'll come any day you want. I'll do luggage. And if you haven't made contact with the University of Galway at all, but I have some very good friends who are in their teacher education who are really media savvy. But I love my visits to Ireland. Love the Javison's tour in addition to the Guinness tour.
Guinness Storehouse. Did you manage to get to pull the perfect pint?
I don't know how perfect it was, but
did it taste good?
It tasted great.
Fantastic. And Jameson too. You're fond of a bit of the old Irish whiskey.
Well, the Jameson one, I'm more interested in the event, and the tour at Guinness is sort of Disneyland-like, but sort of not to my taste. The Jameson did an extremely good tour, very high tech. If you haven't taken that, it's definitely worth seeing for the technology that they use there.
Well, see, the funny thing was pre-2016, I was born and bred in the incoming travel business here in Ireland. So it's a family business. So we would bring, specifically North America, we would have coach loads of people that would come to visit Ireland from North America, and we would take care of all their needs, whether it was customized coach tours, chauffeur drive, all that kind of stuff. So I'm well used to the old shindigs and the good old times that we can share here in Ireland. So if any of you ever want to come to Ireland, just hit me up. And even if I don't get to meet you in person, I'll make sure you have the best itinerary, that you're not stuck in a little lane down the country, and you get to visit all the great places.
Sounds like a great offer. Well, very good. I'll review kind of the premise of the article that I released published on LinkedIn. Simple title, courier font, simple typeface. Why ZoomISO? And the premise of it was being a green room manager a couple different times over the last couple of weeks, and with a very organized event company. I mean, they're one of my favorites to work with, but and they're super organized. They've got all the detail out there. They're great to work with, but and so everybody drops into an initial Zoom meeting. Everybody, customers, staff, Everybody arrives there. And then they've got all the breakout rooms made. Studio 1, Green Room 1, Green Room 2, Studio 2, backups, which are kind of these landing zones to fix things, and so forth. So they're all ready to go, and they route people. They have somebody designated to it. You don't have to find your way around. I mean, if you know, you can go, but if you don't, they'll route you and so forth as well. And so I sat in my green room, and a green room has multiple purposes depending on how things have been architected as well. Sometimes you're just checking framing, lighting, audio, and so forth, but in this case I do all that, but I'm also prepping them to be a panelist on a vMix platform. And so I'm prepping them for vMix call. And so I'm giving them information, links to it, instructions for it, and the whole bit. And then I'm saying, you've got to leave, and you have to leave the Zoom meeting and then click on this link and then go join that platform, whole different environment. And so, that was just really, I've done it a lot of times and it had never hit me like it did, yesterday in particular, because it was repeated. And I got to, I really did get to witness and reflect on these individuals who quite easily arrived, comfortably arrived, and they did it all on their own, which because it was Zoom. And that says a lot for the product, but it also talks a lot about the 2+ years they've been doing it now as well. And, their companies have, adopted it. Their companies have put it through their firewalls and their VPNs. They have become individually comfortable in that environment. They can do most things. They can pretty easily get to, video settings and audio settings if we need to, and all that. There's just not a lot of education and guidance needed. And the real eye-opening thing is I get them all tech checked, and I send them these URLs in private chat, and then I say, bye, gotta go. And that's where the first problem begins. Now, if I pause for a second and I watch their faces and I, tune into that while I'm sending them this information in chat, you can really sense that they're beginning to get a bit nervous about this kind of unknown destination that they're going to have to go enter into. And not that it's such a horrible place, it's just not a place they've been before. And and they have to exit Zoom. They can't just leave the breakout room. They have to exit Zoom. So that is risk number one. If they click on that link, excuse me, to vMix call and click join call while they're still in the Zoom meeting, it's not going to work, because Zoom's using their camera and microphone, and now vMix call is trying to do the same thing. Not vMix call, but the browser. And so the instructions are, you have to exit, then click on join call. And if they get past that, then they're in the platform almost always, and away they go. Now, some will have connectivity issues due to a VPN or something like that, but it's a nice platform in the sense they get a return feed. And I wasn't running the vMix in this gig in particular, but they can control the return feed on how high or low the quality is, so that they can help preserve bandwidth and so forth. But needless to say, there's a certain number of them that end up having a problem, and maybe not even prior to the show, but in the show, then all of a sudden they start getting really grainy looking, and so we're tweaking down the return feed, and it looks bad for them on their return, in hopes that yesterday we had to they had to put a technical difficulty slide up because somebody's connection was getting toasted and freezing and this and that. And so what was the fix? Take them out of vMix call, send them to one of those Zoom breakout rooms, and the staff was prepared to bring them in, 1 or 2 people in at a time from some pre-configured breakout rooms in Zoom. Well, it was a bandwidth problem, and it was their bandwidth problem. and they're still coming in but they're coming in via Zoom and it works. It's like, well, then why'd we ever take them out? And it's old habits is the answer. Old habits is absolutely the answer, because that's all. We had to go to vMix Call or OBS Ninja or Skype with NDI, because they were kind of one of the earliest, NDI outputs on a platform like that, something like that. But those times, I wrote, those times have passed, and it's like, bring them into somewhere that they're comfortable, leave them there, and then just pluck them out of that meeting, because you can. And that's ZoomISO. ZoomISO lets you do just that, and to pull out individual videos. They're clean feeds. They're any resolution you want, really, but easily obtain 1080 feeds out of Zoom for that, and you can now as well bring their isolated audio in as well. So I'm hooked up right now with ZoomISO, and I can do that, and we'll get there. But I've got individual ISO audio, the isolated video, and you can manage that accordingly. So it's just really powerful. They can stay there. Is it a full featured call manager? No, not a full featured call manager, but would I categorically put it in as a call manager to a degree? I would, because I can have a room full of 20 speakers who are just kind of in queue, knowing that the run of show never will exceed 4 to 6 in the panel, and I just manage which 4 to 6 are on air, and all the others can hang back there. And if I'm pulling in isolated audio, then I'm just pulling in the speaker audio out of Zoom, not the muxed audio. And so all the others are still free to speak as well. So, it's just there's options out there that allow us to do it. And I think the premise of me writing that article was, for me anyways, and now I've heard from feedback of others, it's been hard. David even said it earlier. It's been hard to explain to others in an easy, understandable, palatable, believable way of the value of ZoomISO. And that's not to put any shade on ZoomISO. It's an incredible product, and it's not to take away the other product that they hit the market with first, is ZoomOSC. But it it just, that was just pure witness of, man, they're already there. As a matter of fact, the vMix operators were already in that meeting as well. They had a return feed coming into that meeting. So they already had a list of all the participants in my green room. They could have just hit some buttons on the Stream Deck that would have been configured to simply say, bring them in, bring them in, bring them in. They're ready, So it was that close. That's what drove me nuts. It was that close. But yet we said, go someplace else. I don't care if you're nervous, and go make it happen, and go look good, sound good in front of thousands of people. It's just like, it was really, really eye-opening for me. And so that's why I shared that. And if anybody has feedback, feel free, chime in. You can raise your hand or simply unmute and speak if you'd like.
John actually has a question in the chat. I don't know if you want to address that.
John says, yeah, what about screen sharing? Most of my speakers have a presentation. And so every one of these sessions had slide driven presentations. It was medical, it was diversity, I mean, all the topics that usually include slides that have a whole lot of content, way too much content. Ray, our presentation professional here, is well aware of a lot of rules and guidelines and so forth. And if you tune into office hours at all, Alex is all about, kind of no text ideally, and graphics and simplicity and so forth. But there was a lot of them. And so we used Internet Clicker And so everybody in that session, let's say the 6 panelists, they all were connected to Internet Clicker, the same Internet Clicker, by the way. So didn't matter who hit next, it would go. So if they all hit next, it would go, 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 right? And so we always had to share that word of warning that, hey, your clicker is the same as their clicker. So if you click it while they're speaking, you're gonna move their slides on them. And so that's pretty easy to cure. They're all,
Can you talk though,
working
Jeff, about how screen share actually works with ZoomISO?
Yeah,
Because because it sounds like what you're describing is that you had the presentation that you were presenting and they were just advancing it. But I think John's question is, how do you bring in a presentation or a screen share from ZoomISO?
Yeah, if I do it right now, we're gonna get stuck in ZoomISO from that point forward. Let's suffice it just for the moment to say it's absolutely doable, right? As easily as ZoomISO can capture my video output or David's video output, I'll cut over. Sorry about that. I forgot that it automatically, when it went to program, flipped on the audio. But needless to say, you can see what's there, and I can pull out individual ISO. Ray, go ahead and wave to me, and everybody can look at both. Like the difference between Ray's full screen video and the one in the top right of my multi. An expected delay is to be had, but it's very negligible. And I'll say it's especially negligible because right now I'm running an early release of ZoomISO that Andy literally just sent to me an hour before today's show, and it is leveraging the high bandwidth mode, and so I've got my Zoom ISO host has a dedicated 100 meg pipe from each feed, and I think that's what it is, and so it's got this dedicated pipe between the Zoom servers and itself, and that's brand new, and he did make a point to say that it's also usable in breakout rooms, because there is a lot of structure going on with breakout rooms, like these green rooms and studios and so forth. But there's a requirement. You have to have the add-on from Zoom support. They have to enable it for you by request, the BO100, so the Breakout 100 add-on, so that you can extend your breakout rooms from a maximum of 50 to a maximum of 100. You have to have that on. You don't have to use it. You just have to have it enabled in order to be able to leverage the high bandwidth mode in breakout rooms as well. So if this is part of your path, just submit a support ticket, ask them to enable BO for breakout 100 on your account, and you'll always be up and ready for that high bandwidth mode to even be in your favor inside of a breakout room as well. And so, that's, I think that's lending itself. I don't, now I don't have the capability of, well, let's see it without the high bandwidth mode. Is what I've got. It's the version of ZoomISO that I'm running right now. So thanks to Andy for that. It's not released yet. There's no absolute date, but I know Zoomtopia is around the world. I would imagine they're scrambling to get this out and announce it and release it and so forth. But needless to say, we don't know exactly when they're going to drop the released version of the high bandwidth mode. But we are running it today. So the delay is pretty negligible with that. And a delay is only a delay when you have something to compare it to, right? So we were comparing, Ray's, real picture to one that I'm processing and producing. So I'm trying to think of where we might go next. I definitely don't want to miss the basics, for folks who are just getting, hey, where do we get it? Hey, how do we install it? How do we configure it and so forth? So my makeup is where I was. I'm on a PC. I'm running what we refer to as the vanilla Zoom client, the one I download from Zoom, not the ZoomISO or ZoomOSC client. That the vanilla client is on this machine with vMix, a Mix Pre 3 for audio, and that's my basic put together. So next to me is a Mac Mini M1 that I bought, I don't know, not quite, probably 3 months ago, but it's pretty new. It's my newest system, and I absolutely love it. I really do. And it was just a basic unit, 8 gig of memory, and right off the stock shelf at what's called Nebraska Furniture Mart for like $650. It was, pretty doggone affordable, and it's just, I mean, I've got Premiere on it, Photoshop on it. I mean, I haven't been able to knock this thing down at all with everything I do. And it's just super smooth, and it reboots the doggone fast and so forth. So that's sitting next to it. Now, on that right now, I have I've installed kind of everything I need for work, from Discords and Slacks and, all those tools. vMix is a PC only, application. So that's why my PC continues to live for sure. But I've got ZoomISO installed, and that also, ZoomISO Pro includes ZoomOSC. So with that one launch, and ZoomISO is, if you haven't even seen it, but you have only ever heard about it, it's like launching a Zoom client. Now, the look is slightly different initially on the sign in and so forth, but it's close enough to where you go, oh, this is like a Zoom application, and it is. You tell it to log in, and and it uses the Zach login that they've got in there now, which basically says, hey, ZoomOSC and ISO for a little while had this kind of stopping point where with logins and so forth. So now this Zach basically says, hey, ZoomOSC or ISO, pause for a second while we go launch the login to Zoom directly. Zoom's going to authenticate this individual authoritatively, if you will, and hand you back a token that you can trust. And at that point, it lets you in, gets you logged in and so forth. And so it gets rid of I don't want to say it gets around, because that sounds like it's doing something tricky. It's doing something very authoritatively, actually, but securely, to authenticate you with a token instead. So once you're in, then you can create a meeting. I could host the Zoom Test Kitchen on my ZoomISO client if I wanted to, but Andy and team have always recommended have your primary host be the vanilla client from Zoom, and then have a second client called ZoomISO, ZoomOSC, launch here and join that main meeting. It's just a really good practice in the sense that you have, when I'm the one starting the meeting, and my ZoomISO client is the second one in, and I join and make it the co-host, who's going to become the host if my primary goes down and goes offline, right? It naturally becomes the host if that situation were to occur as well. So even just for backup purposes, to not lose your meeting, depending on the failures, right? But needless to say, it's a good practice there. So that's my makeup. So ZoomISO these days is Mac platform only, and the recommendation, it's truly been optimized for the the Apple Silicon platform, the M1s, and there's still a lot of Intel out there as well, but I don't know the gray area in between. It's like, hey, I hear, it'll run it on the Intel Mac, but there may be issue. I don't know how to fill in the blank of you might be challenged here or there or whatnot. It may just be optimizations. It won't run as smooth. It won't run as well. Who knows? but it's truly optimized. So, purchase the right platform for the job. I'll share with you this slightly off topic, but not too far. I get, sometimes I just sigh when I needed to tone down how I describe that. I sigh when I hear people say, for instance, hey, when is vMix? Or now, when is ZoomISO going to be built for the Windows? I'm just like, are you kidding me? If the developer has optimized it for that platform, don't you want a software solution that is optimized and written well and so forth? It's if you need the right tool for the job, go buy the right tool for the job, and that includes the OS. To stick everybody else's responsibility based on the OS platform that you've dedicated yourself to is just a limiting choice, period. You're simply going to be limited, and it's nobody's fault but your own. And I have it makes no difference to me whether my mouse and keyboard that are connected to my PC runs my PC, runs this Mac, runs my next PC laptop, and runs the Mac behind that. All one. So the mouse and keyboard doesn't care. I use a program called Synergy to accomplish that. But it doesn't matter to me. I can use it. I just need the best platform underneath the software solution so I can get the results of this optimized deliverable. So, hey, Robert, you got your hand up.
I just wanted to say that I am a Windows guy and been a Windows guy all my life. And I was apprehensive when Andy came on with the Mac operating system platform for ZoomISO. But I bought a Mac Mini and I just use that Mac Mini for ZoomISO and nothing else. It keeps my world simple. It keeps it consistent in the Windows world. And I just use the Mac Mini to generate the NDI feeds. And I'm a very happy person.
You had an objective to accomplish, and that was to be able to pull somebody or people out of a Zoom meeting. And you said, well, in order to meet that objective, I need to buy this software on this platform, right? You had two things to purchase to accomplish it. And so you did. And
well, and it replaced 8 laptops running 8 versions of Zoom, 8 apps, 8 OBSs, 8 NDI conversions, which was a total mess.
Absolutely. And it even it saved at least one extra monitor, even with just ZoomISO on that computer, because ZoomISO, you didn't have to have that second monitor, but it was really nice because the original, ZoomISO 1, for every 1080 feet, it popped up a window and popped up the next window, and so it had these layers. It was just kind of window management hell, quite honestly. And it's not that you really needed those, but it needed to pop those up in order to be able to, bring in the feeds and all. It doesn't even do that anymore. It's just a management console, and the management console, yeah, you can look at it, you can watch it if you need to. But the fact is it usually ends up on a control surface somewhere where you're actually managing it on a Stream Deck or a control surface of your choice.
My Mac Mini is in my rack, so I don't even see it.
Yeah, my Mac Mini is here, but my monitor is sitting on top of it. It's so just out of the way, But anyways, any questions or discussions further on kind of just the initial kind of physical layout? Does that make sense to everybody? I'll assume that silence means yes, it's all good.
You had suggested that Mark was going to get the first dibs at his problem.
Oh, man. Thank you very much for that, Ray. I totally blew that. Mark.
I'm here.
You are up. I am going to pause and apologize. I made a promise and then I faltered on it. I'm deeply sorry about that.
That's all right. I had other things I was doing. And just listening to you all, Man, I am such a newbie.
Sure.
It's almost embarrassing to be here. I have a very straightforward question, problem that arose. I was giving a presentation a couple days ago, and I went to presenter's view, where, you know, as you all know, in presenter view, I see the slide that the audience is seeing. I see my script, and I see the next slide, as well as a little picture of me.
Yep. So Mark, let
Yes.
me jump in for a second.
Yeah.
Now that I know who you are. So I replied to a post that Mark put out on community.zoom, and it was this issue in particular. My reply initially, I thought I may have had it, but it wasn't, and that's kind of the swap display, right? And but that wasn't exactly. But you had mentioned that it wasn't a moment where you could gather like firm feedback from everybody either, right? And I thought, you know, I don't usually invite people to the Zoom Test Kitchen. I am the Zoom Test Kitchen by name on the community, but I don't usually place invites out there because it just seems way too forward. But needless to say, I did in your case. I said, hey, we've got a community Friday. You can see them, Mark. We're all here. We've got what, 12 of us on camera and 27 in total. And every single one of us are willing to let you share, give you feedback. And I say, let's just do it, because you've done it before. I mean, and you've had success, but it sounded like something changed. And so we'll give you some fair feedback and live feedback and see if we can get this fixed up for you. Does that sound like a plan?
That's fine.
All right. So you're the host of this meeting that you're doing this in, right?
I actually come into the meeting as a guest.
Okay. Do they give you co-host?
Because the organization, which is the Center for Continuing Education in Larchmont, New York, is the organization through whom I give the speech. Okay. And they are the ones that have the Zoom facility.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I come in as a guest, and then they make me the host.
They do make you the host.
That's correct.
Okay. Because I want to simulate who you are and so forth, so that we have a true replication. Okay. Now, I will say I've never given a new guest host. I'll give them co-host, but I'm going to do it. And I'll make, well, David, you're currently the host. David is the current host. I can always reclaim host.
I just switched.
I'm the
I just
account
switched host
owner
over.
and so forth. So I always have the ability to pull it back. But needless to say, David has given you host. If you will be so kind to make, if you're familiar with this process, if you're not, let us know. But the participant named David Paskin, not the David Paskin ZoomISO, make David Paskin a co-host, because when he gave you host, he lost any hosting authority. But if you can give him co-host back.
And how do I do that?
So go find his name in the participants list, or you can
Yep,
even right click on his picture.
No, I did that. I've got him here.
Mm-hmm. And drop down the options next to his name with the 3 dots on the top right corner, or to the right of his name.
Yeah.
And if you click on those 3 dots, one of those options that drops down will say make co-host.
It said make host.
No, don't make them host, because that'll just give them back. We want you to stay host, but you should be able to make them a co-host. Should be the option under.
It's interesting. The choices it gives me are chat, ask to start video, pin, make host, remove.
So you're looking at the wrong David Paskin.
Sorry.
You're looking at David Paskin ZoomISO. You want to just do David Paskin.
Yeah, there's 2.
It's the guy with a really, really cute profile picture, a really handsome guy inside the guitar.
it's not David Paskin's ZoomISO.
No,
It's not that one. It's the
It's
other
David Paskin. Okay, fine. All right, I see it. All right, make co-host. Okay, done.
Perfect. All right. All right. So now we're set that way. The now, so you are that host that they make you. So now I'll describe it out loud for everybody. The security settings that I've had in the Zoom test kitchen for well over a year now, when we got Zoom bombed, just one of those really uncomfortable moments. Had like 5 people show up all at the same time, start spewing garbage on the screen and so forth. We changed our ways and we tightened things down. One of those things is the security options that are built in. The Ray Franklins, who constantly manages and watches the waiting room. If I need to give an attendee the ability to share, I'll quickly make them a co-host. They share, I can kill that co-host, they can still share, instead of enabling sharing for the entire meeting. And that can become disruptive. And so there's some options there. So anyways, we don't have to enable sharing because you're a host now, or even a co-host can trump. Nobody can share, but because you're a host and co-host, you can. So feel free, if you've got your PowerPoint opened and queued up the way you normally do, feel free to share that at this point.
Okay, so this is the process. So I'm clicking on the share screen and I'm going to the screen that
Hello, Brendan. What do you know?
Hello.
Let's see. Let's
Yeah.
let's get
What's
John.
No worries, we took care of it.
Did you get it? Okay, thank you.
And now, can you see the screen with the lecture?
We can see a full screen share. Says
Right.
lecture number 2 with a graphic of a building, and that's it.
That's St. Peter's Basilica in Rome.
Yeah.
Okay, and now I'm going to go to show presenter view. And what are you seeing?
We didn't change what we're seeing at all.
That's interesting.
Now we saw you make that selection,
right?
But beyond that,
and you're still just seeing the lecture 2 papal stories and
clean,
St. Peter's Basilica.
Share. Yep.
Okay. What I'm telling you happened, and I actually talked to somebody else this morning about it, who was attending the lecture. That what happened was, this was a little confusing for me. When I first started, for some reason, and I don't know why, I was muted because I'd actually talked before that, and then somewhere in the process, somehow I ended up muting myself. I assume I did it. And so when I got to the next slide here, I started hearing people saying, "We can't hear you, you must be muted." So, now not knowing how to get out of that situation, because I have no ability to get to the unmute button here.
Yeah.
Or at least, actually I do. Muted. But yesterday I didn't see that. What I did was I stopped share and jumped back and then restarted the share.
Yeah, which is pretty interruptive, right? And,
right, but still, now I had to show the presenter view. So now I'm back in presenter view, and you're still seeing, I gather, just the slide
just a full screen
the
slide,
city of
yeah.
Rome.
Now,
but everybody told me that in both when I was muted, and then after I came back and was unmuted, they were seeing the presenter screen, as was I. And I've never,
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of experience with Zoom, but I've never experienced that.
Well, I'll say it's not a Zoom thing. It's a PowerPoint configuration slideshow thing in almost all cases. I mean, Zoom shares. Now, you can share as far as the Zoom part of it. You have a choice to share the PowerPoint application, or you can share the screen, right? And so you can share basically anything that's within the border of my desktop, monitor 1, monitor 2 if you have 2. Or I can say, well, PowerPoint's open and it's about to go into presentation mode. I want to share that open application called PowerPoint. Now it won't show anything else other than the content that PowerPoint is outputting. That's kind of where Zoom begins and ends, which is important. But as far as like presenter view and so forth, there's also, several options inside of PowerPoint that you should be innately aware of. So if you could share with us, so we can go look at those with you, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Share with us the PowerPoint application. So hit the escape key and take it out of presentation mode. And then if PowerPoint is open, do you have one monitor or 2?
1.
Okay. And is PowerPoint full screen right now?
Yes. Well,
It doesn't really have to be. Do this. Be on Zoom, share your monitor, screen 1, and I'll warn you first, just in case, it will show us your entire desktop until you then maximize PowerPoint. Okay, so if you're not comfortable doing that, then don't.
I don't care what you see.
Okay.
Let me just see what you want me to show you. Okay, so here we are. Now you want me to share screen?
Yeah, share screen.
Okay, there's you see the whole desktop?
You're not sharing.
Oh, really? I'm sorry. Oh.
Okay. And that's Excel. That's not PowerPoint.
Right, exactly. Hold a second.
Okay.
Okay, so share screen. Now, right now I'm looking, I have 11 things open.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's only one thing that I want people to see, which is the papacy talk slides.
So yeah, part of this is like, it gets into knowledge of Zoom, knowledge of PowerPoint, and then knowledge of like keyboard shortcuts for Windows. And the combination of those nuggets of knowledge and skills are going to be your best friend. A lot has to do with, because you only have one monitor, by the way. If you had a second monitor connected to that computer, some things would get a lot simpler, because when you share and Zoom on a single monitor, it kind of covers everything up for you, right? And that's when you have to really lean on keyboard shortcuts for Windows. If you have a second monitor, then having PowerPoint on that second monitor and telling it to share PowerPoint or share that second monitor, your first monitor stays intact and you don't lose that visibility of things. So just something to consider is all. Well, if anybody else has other suggestions, kind of chime in at will here as well. So
the big surprise that people don't get is that you want to be able to share your whole desktop first with all of the 11 things that are open. And then you have a choice to either show that image or show the PowerPoint program. So what Jeff was asking you is to show the desktop with all the 11 things on it first, and then get to the PowerPoint.
Well, we're
program,
there.
not
We're
the
there
slide.
now. We can. I
Oh.
mean, where you just were, that actually is fine. My comment was more about a warning of exposure because we're streaming and you've got an audience here. And if that wasn't a problem, then if you want to share the PowerPoint that you just had up, not the presentation, but the tool, that was exactly that was the exact thing I was looking for. And then we'll walk you through.
Okay,
some
this
options.
is
So,
this is the PowerPoint.
yeah, so the menu up top, there's an option there to the left of record that says slideshow. Click on the slideshow option up top of PowerPoint. Keep going up a little higher. Yeah, now go to the right. All those, that's the menu, and go to the right, and there's one transitions, animations, and then slideshow. You were at animations, just one to the right of animations.
I can't really see it because all the icons for Zoom are up there.
Oh, all right.
And they're blocking out my ability to see.
Tap your right arrow key.
You can move those. Just move them out of the way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, good. So go to animations or slideshow.
Slideshow.
Okay. All right.
And then there's an icon. There's a button under transitions that says set up slideshow. Go to the left. Left. Right there. Back to the right. One more. Right there. Set up slideshow. Click that. All right. This is your instruction to PowerPoint of how you want it to launch your presentation, right? And so, it says full screen. You can tell it to loop. There's a number of things. One of the most important one is on what monitor, and it's on automatic, and you just have one monitor, so there's not going to be choices there.
Right.
And then the checkbox that says use presenter view, and I just wanted to make sure that you were familiar with these options. I didn't think I was going to see use presenter view checked, quite honestly, but I think I get what you're doing now. Is because you have a single monitor and you want to see the presenter view. You get hit with the full screen first, and you're in that full screen, and the whole audience sees you use your mouse to switch it to presenter view. And so it works, but man, you're digging through a lot of information on your desktop, mostly in the blind, and that's really challenging.
Well, let me just ask so. In other words, what I have here in the setup show is presented by speaker full screen, showing all slides, using timings at present, which I'm not, are fine. Is the use presenter view, if that weren't checked, what would that do?
Well, then it'll just put it in presentation mode, and that's all you would be able to see. The other helpful way to present, first question I'd have to ask is, does your slide deck have animations?
No.
Okay. If it's just a flat static slide deck, I might recommend sharing. Make your left slide, the vertical slide stack. You can move that and make them smaller, right? The bar between the two, you can move that over to the left, make it a little smaller. Not so small that it's not useful to you if you want it to be there. But you can still see your notes, get your notes sized up and visible to a comfortable level. And then instead of sharing a screen or PowerPoint, share a portion of your screen. Then you've got all the tools across the top, all the slides down the left side, all your notes at the bottom. But the only thing you're going to share, if you've never done this, we'll show you how to get it set up. It will only be sharing the big slide that is in this picture right now. Not the picture, but in the whole share. It's only going to share the portion, which is the photograph.
Okay, how do I do that?
Okay, so go ahead and stop this share. Well, actually, you don't have to stop it, but if you do, it's not a problem. Go to share again and go to the advanced tab instead of the basic tab, which is where it normally goes. Go to the advanced tab.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It looks like he has it set up to automatically share.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you see on the top where that says new share?
New share.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
New share.
Click on that. And then look for the advanced tab.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the advanced tab, there's a button selection option there that says portion of screen.
I'm just writing some things down here. Okay, portion of screen. I'm clicking on that. Okay. And do I still do I hit share?
Yeah, go ahead and hit share. So
Okay.
now we're just seeing part of the picture right now, the photograph.
Right.
We don't see the green box that you're looking at, but you
Right.
want to move and adjust the size of that green box just to encapsulate the big slide inside of PowerPoint. And anything that's outside of that green box, we don't see. Anything that's inside that green box, we will see.
Okay.
Okay. So now a few things have changed in the sense of the way you present, and that is you're not in presentation mode, nor will you go into presentation mode sharing in this method, right? And so in order to move the slides from one to the next, you can either click on the next slide with your mouse, the slides that are on the left side, or as long as you have, I always for safekeeping, like this is the one that's showing, click that once, and then you can just down arrow, down arrow, down arrow on your keyboard. And that's the way you'll actually advance the slides, because you're not in presentation mode technically, but the audience doesn't know that, you know what I'm saying? But you have all the information you need in front of you.
Right.
And you know that anything, like if you opened a program and you dragged it into that green box, we'll see it. The moment you drag it out, it'll go away. And so it's a pretty slick way to do it, as long as you don't have animations that you need to show.
Yeah, no, I have
transitions.
no animations.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay, so right now you're seeing just the
We're just seeing
entire
the photograph.
You're seeing
If you're able to look at my screen, I'm showing
Yes.
you a screen
Yes.
grab of what we're seeing.
Yes, I'm seeing it. Yes. Okay. And it's interesting. There's still some unused screens showing. That's interesting. Okay. All right. And then in essence, I'm sorry, the one thing I missed when you were talking was if I wanted to change the screens, do I just click on the little icons that I have on the side now?
Yeah, the slides that are
The slides that are on the side?
Yep.
Actually, I really like
that. Or if you click on one, and you know all you're going to do is go to the next, go to the next, go to the next, you can just use the down arrow key on your keyboard if that's any simpler for you. I always like taking the aim out of it, the aim requirement. I need to aim my mouse and then click. If I know it's a repeatable deal, I would rather use a keyboard shortcut.
Yeah, I see. Okay, now, interestingly, so I should gear this, when I do this, I should gear this sizing to the largest screen that I have.
Well, so here would be my recommendation on gearing it. You have one screen and
Right.
you're the presenter.
Right.
You need to set that PowerPoint application up just the way you need it, so you can easily see the stack of slides. You can easily see your presenter notes, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how small the main slide is, the active current slide is. You're just going to shrink your portion of screen green border down to that size, and it still ends up a full screen share to us.
That's fabulous.
It can be completely on your screen. It can be completely secondary, where your notes and the stack of slides are primary, but to us, it'll still be a full screen presentation.
Now, the new share, I just want to ask, normally when I've seen it, it just says share.
Share is kind of a first instance, like you're
Right.
not sharing anything, so you want to
Right.
share. But if you're actively sharing something, Marty's recommendation was great and timely. If you're actively sharing and you want to set up for the next one while the current one is still sharing, that's when you'll see the new share.
Okay, so it's while I'm sharing, then the new share will appear.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. I think that resolves my problem, and I really want to thank all of you for taking the time.
Pleasure. That's what the Zoom Test Kitchen is here for. So spread the word out there if it was helpful and all.
Oh, it was very helpful.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you want to grab host back?
Yeah, grab the host
Oh
back.
yeah. Let me reclaim host here.
Thank you all very much.
Jeff, I have a question about that. When you're sharing a portion of your screen and that portion is less than full screen, will Zoom see only the resolution of the frame that you're grabbing? The portion that you're
We're
grabbing?
about to find out. So here's almost my full 2K monitor. Okay. Now I'm going to shrink this down quite a bit, and I'll just move it around.
The resolution does change.
Yeah,
it just went down from 2000 to.
It changes the resolution, but which means it takes this original resolution and it's got to stretch it on the share. I mean, I don't think there's no avoiding that. So if I were to take this down just now, what I'm sharing is in my preview window of vMix. I have that 4 up that we will eventually get to here, or back to. In the 4 up, I'm only sharing the bottom right quadrant in the preview window, so the preview window is half the screen. In that, there's a 4x, and in that 4x, there's Robert at 1 out of the 4. So that's how small my share is. I can see, it's kind of looks like garbage. I'm looking at my other screen. I'm going, that share looks horrible. So, I mean, going that small, certainly, could cause some tough things if you're reading. If they're graphics, a little more flexibility. But no, it's a great point to bring out for sure.
It shows 458 by 262. I think it is stretching it to 1080 or whatever your screen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, it's for sure stretching it to 16:9, right? I mean, well, not necessarily 16:9, but it's going to fill one of those dimensions in whole, right? So,
Jeff, I did have one other question. In the new share configuration, will I show at all?
You mean like, well, when you're sharing,
because in presenter view, I do share. I mean, I do appear. Because presenter view effectively shows when I'm
presenter view doesn't really have anything to do with your camera. Presenter view is, hey, you're a human standing in front of the computer. Ideally, you have two monitors. On that one, we're going to do a full screen of the PowerPoint. But on this one, because you're the presenter and you need to see your notes and the next slide, we're going to show it this way. It just gives you more data to look at. It's not a showing you actually live. That actually comes from Zoom. And so when you're sharing, if I, the host, don't do anything, you'll just, the audience, your single monitor, I'm not sure if your single monitor will actually show you.
No, but in the advanced share, the audience will still, they'll not only see the slide, but if I have my camera on, they'll also see me.
Yeah. So if it's Zoom doing that, but even the portion of screen will still show. So if I go back to portion, and it doesn't really matter what it is, but that's my portion, and then will one of you co-host, David, will you spotlight me?
Yep.
So commonly you'll see like a side by side, and you'll see everybody. But if there's some flexibility, like the host doesn't have total control of this inside of a meeting versus a webinar, but if you have side by side on, if there's no spotlight, then they see the gallery strip to the right of the share. If somebody, whether it's yourself or somebody's managing it for you, if they'll spotlight you, the speaker, then you'll be the only video picture next to your share.
Okay. All right. Again, I thank all of you very much. I'm going to hop off and let you guys have the rest of your meeting.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Take care.
Jeff, you are an absolute brilliant teacher. You have the patience and the structure to pass knowledge across. It's amazing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Marty has his hand up.
Yep, there he is. Marty. No, you're muted, bud.
Sorry. Hi. I'm normally an audio engineer, but recently TD'd for a virtual conference for a new client, a production company. And it was real interesting, and I thought the workflow was overly convoluted. So this was a conference with several tracks, and I was TDing for one of those tracks. And basically, I was hosting a presenter who was talking and had slide shares, or sometimes had slide shares, sometimes not. What the audience is seeing is a full screen web browser super source with two windows in it, a larger window and a smaller window. A larger window would have the slide share, the smaller window would have the presenter's camera. And the way that we did this was interesting. So I'm in a Zoom meeting with just the presenter, and I have OBS that is streaming out to the platform. And the OBS...
Oh, just did it again. Sorry about that.
Sorry. And the OBS window format was double high. And I would have to grab two window window grabs off of Zoom, one with the slide and one was just the camera. And I'd put one at the bottom of the OBS frame, one at the top of the OBS frame. And then the platform grabbed those two halves and then split it up to show it on the SuperSource view screen. But then I also had to capture the transition captions on the Zoom screen. So there was a third capture that I then had to fit into that half of the OBS screen that the camera was in, and then fit the captions in there, and then the lower third slides on top of that. It was really, really convoluted the way that, I had to capture two parts of the screen, and then I had to move the bar between the slide share and the camera to give me enough black area at the bottom to cleanly capture the captions. Otherwise, there would be video behind the captions because I'm doing a display capture. So I had to have this Zoom call on full screen, do a display capture of the captions, and then window captures of the slide and the presenter's camera, and fit all of this in OBS and then stream out from there.
Yeah. So
I'm thinking there must be.
What were you using for capturing? Like an NDI capture or something like that? Or how are you capturing?
It was just Zoom's live transcription being shown on the Zoom screen.
But that's on the Zoom screen. I thought I was getting that you had to capture that and bring it into OBS. So what did you use to actually capture that?
OBS's display capture window that I then sized down to just capture the 3 lines of the Zoom transcription.
So I would say, I think there's a mix of issues here that lend to the complexity. I would say that was probably either a lack of planning, but more maybe a lack of investment. And that is, what platform doesn't support closed captioning? You know what I'm saying? The lack of investment is to go pay a captioner to provide the captioning. You know what I'm saying? And that has nothing to do with an overlay. That literally could be fed directly into your very last landing zone called the platform, whatever platform.
And the client who was hosting the presentation or staging the presentation didn't want to pay for a captioner.
Wow, that was a pretty good guess on my part.
Yes.
And so that really is, that's just it could be, somebody who's really young at it and not very experienced, and they just think, oh, we'll just peel these parts out and glue them all back together. But I think there's been enough time to pass, and there's enough talent out there for sure to realize that's just a captioner's job, and every platform supports captioning in multiple different ways. And so, yeah, so that makes sense. It's I think it's yet another testament of ZoomISO too, right? Like you could have hosted that meeting where they were. It's not the best practice framework, but you could have done it just the same. I don't think there's really any massive danger in just launch that Zoom meeting with the ZoomISO client and maybe a stream deck attached to manage who is being captured, and you're just managing it. So I'm gonna take myself out of this this capture. I want to quit bouncing a bunch of sound back and forth. That's what I think is killing it. So I've got Marty up on one, and who else is live? Mike, and so I can cut to you guys, right? That's coming right out.
And Marty, you're way over modulated.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you know what? Let me. I've got embedded audio on these guys too. Yeah.
Is that better? All right. So yeah, so that's exactly what I was thinking, that you could grab the presenter and the slide using ZoomISO, send those directly to the platform that is creating the super source that the viewers see with audio. And apparently there is a way for ZoomISO, ZoomOSC to grab the text out of the live transcription, not what you see on screen, but what you would see on the side panel. Send that to, and I just quickly read through this, send that to an Excel that can then grab the frame and then have that as another video feed or something. It was something on Office Hours GitHub.
Yeah, I think there may be a kind of a separate. Somebody's created, whether I don't know whether it was like Andy and a few, or Jonas, or it sounds like somebody created a
It's Jonas. It's Jonas.
Is it Jonas's? Yeah.
Mhm.
To create a separate tool that would make things happen. Because in the in ZoomISO, here, let's go ahead and jump into this. Let me share. Yeah, it's got permissions. If I share. Oh, hadn't taken this new machine to this portion yet, and that is that I have to give ZoomISO the ability to access my screens. Security and privacy. Security and privacy. Save. There we go. Sorry about this. I'm not quitting ZoomISO and restarting because of that, but let's see if it'll catch it anyways. All right, now let's see if it'll let me share. Yeah, there we go. All right, so we got this screen. Now it's not showing all the data. Got that. Well, shucks. I think let me go to video settings and make sure I'm telling it to show my Zoom windows. It might be what's hanging things up.
While you're working on that, Jeff, you have a couple hands up, Hasmuk and Robert.
Yeah, go ahead. Who's first? Hasmuk is top of my list.
So I have a ZoomISO question. My normal setup with the Zoom client is my video chain is the ATEM with a camera connected to the ATEM, and my audio chain is the MixPre that goes directly into the computer. I've been playing with ZoomISO now for a while, and I kind of understand now the video side of it. The question I had is on the audio side of it. I have not in the past used the ATEM in my audio chain. What should I do as far as audio goes when I use ZoomISO?
Thoughts, guys?
What?
You're muted, David.
Apologies. What platform are you bringing it into? Ecamm, Mimo?
No, it's straight into. So it's not. I'm not streaming. I'm just attending meetings, or I'm a host of a meeting, And so my video chain is the camera connected to the ATEM. And then the audio is my mix pre.
Right, but I guess how are you using ZoomISO there?
Okay. The idea is to have one meeting and pull people out of that meeting, create an ISO, and then put them into a super source.
Using your ATEM.
Yeah. So
okay.
Mix effects and the ATEM, and then push whoever I want to by doing the ISO video. But I'm not certain about what impact that has on the audio chain. So do I bring in the audio out of the ATEM, and how do I do that? Or do I still use the mix pre going directly into the computer?
Let me take a crack at this. My thought is that, Asmith, are you using a Mac Mini?
Yeah, the M1.
Okay, and that has audio out via an audio jack to like speakers or headphones?
Yeah, you mean in the computer itself?
Yes.
Yes, I have that, and on the mix pre, I also have audio out.
Okay, so what I would do is if you want to bring in the audio source in, you could always bring that in the mic in on the ATEM. And then you can combine the audio within the ATEM that way. Or what you can do, because again, the Mac Mini itself is the Zoom source, right? So that has the actual audio and video in it. So you need to physically HDMI out of the Mac Mini into the ATEM. So that's HDMI. Now you need the audio. So now you need the audio. So is it a 3.5 millimeter?
Yeah, it's 3.5.
Okay, so you need a 3.5 to 3.5 to go in the mic input on the ATEM.
Okay.
And that will bring in the audio, and you'll just have to do a little bit of mixing, of course, audio-wise within the ATEM software.
I was wondering, would one of the HDMIs out of that meeting not send the audio as well? I'm just thinking.
Yeah, it should do.
I don't know the Mac Mini enough. It should.
Yeah, what you want to do is get the web interface up, and you'll see the audio channels. So on my setup, I pull I pull a video source out of one laptop, which is where my audience are. Where my speakers are, because I don't have enough speakers to justify using ISO. I hope I will next year. So they come in through the ATEM, but the ATEM sends the video and the audio in. And then that goes straight through as a USB source into my other computer. And that gets video and audio. But I also do, as you say, I also then can take advantage of the audio in on the ATEM and bring in another audio source in there. So I don't need a separate sound card for those things.
Okay.
How are you getting your ISO videos out of the M1 and into the ATEM?
It's one meeting. So the way I do that is with the super sources. That's where I get. So with the super source, you can choose which camera your super source should come out of. So in the Mac Mini, I'm using pluggables to give me 4 screens. So with the pluggable with the 4 screens, I have 4 ISO videos, basically.
And do those HDMI outputs include audio from ZoomISO?
Yes, so that's why I was wondering, how do I, because at the moment, my audio is going from my mix pre. So instead of going from the mix pre, I was wondering if I can take the audio from the ISO.
So instead of taking audio from the mix pre, which is going into your 3.5 millimeter input on the ATEM, you would use the audio from each of the HDMI inputs instead.
Yeah, that was my question.
And I'm wondering whether I just need one of them instead of all of them in terms of the HDMIs.
Well, each HDMI has a different camera, a different person in the Zoom gallery. And
they all, Marty, they're all in the same meeting. I'm just
Right.
isolating the video. So I would assume the audio would be the same across each ISO feed that I'm putting into the ATEM.
Well, so there's a question that I had. Does ZoomISO bring out the ISO audio from each person?
It can. So with the ZoomISO Pro, you can ISO the audio as well. Now I haven't. That's why I was suggesting, as far as ZoomISO is concerned, I'm kind of comfortable with the video side of it, but I'm not. I'm treading waters as far as the audio goes.
Okay, so it looks like Jeff is going to show us some stuff.
Yeah. So you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I turned on screen capture or scan converter on the Mac, so I could just capture the app, and you can see the app, but the drop downs, like I'm doing a drop down on the first embedded audio drop down list next to Mike Latta's name, and you can see it highlighted on screen. I can see the drop down, and it says off. Embedded audio is off. All, which is muxed audio from Zoom, or ISO. Now, I don't know why the screen capture tool is not getting that and showing it to you, but needless to say, it drops. Those are your choices. You can not send embedded audio, you can send muxed audio, or you can send ISO audio. And so if you let's say you had 8 outputs, but all you wanted was the Zoom audio, just set number 1 to all and leave all the others off, and you would get one muxed feed from the Zoom meeting.
That was my question. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can turn them all on, and they would all have their own individual ISO.
Right.
And
Gotcha.
you'd be good to go. I think, and I need to kind of talk out loud next time I get a chance with Andy. I think if like when I when I start referring to Zoom plus ZoomISO as, and no one else is saying this, and I might get slapped for saying this, but I think it's in some use cases, it could be an acceptable call manager, in that sense. It's not a full feature. It's not built to be a call manager, but my whole point is, can I have somebody talking on air and have the other 6 talking to each other? And if you have isolated audio, you could absolutely do that. Right? You mute the other 5 or 6 on air, and you only have Mike Latta. He's the one on air. He's the one I'm getting the feed from, and he's unmuted. All the other ones I'm getting the feed from, but they're muted, right? And so can they still talk in Zoom? Absolutely. It's just on air, we'll never hear them until I unmute them in vMix or whatever other controller you're using. So I think in that sense, it's has a lot of potential, but if you just want everything, if you do muxed, it's no longer a green room, right? That they can safely speak amongst themselves while
Right.
somebody else is on air, right? But
and Zoom should give you a mix minus as well without you having to create one, because it's supposed to do echo correction.
Yeah, as long as you're pulling it out of the same meeting, you're putting it back in, it'll mix minus that. Yeah.
And can you talk to an individual person?
No, that's where it starts breaking down. It's not that that ability to have direct talk back and so forth. Yeah.
Jeff, can you show that advanced audio tab on the screen that you have now? Are you able to do that?
Yeah, that was my challenge. Let me Let me try the screen share again. I changed a couple of things and see, because it won't
So
show.
Marty, you wouldn't be able to talk back, I think, but you could always individually text, even through Zoom chat, you'd be able to, so you could get cues that way.
Yeah, that or Unity, Unity, or, I mean, we used Unity these last 2 weeks, and it's a great little program. I mean, mobile device or desktop or whatnot. Let's see if we've gotten any better. If I do see, it won't show my windows on my desktop at all.
That's
Remind
okay.
me where the show the Zoom windows is. I was looking for that. Like,
But
show
that's
my
in
Zoom
the
windows.
web client. You have to go to the admin side.
Yeah, but in the Zoom settings, right? And so I'm going to I thought
Because
for
I don't know
sure it
if
was under share screen settings, scale to fit, side by side, share, individual or all windows. Wonder if it's just not in this client. Let me see if I can find it in my vanilla client to see where it is. Always show meeting controls, but that's not the same. It's actually Zoom windows. I thought it was here as well as a back-end portal piece, and I know the back-end portal is turned on.
I'm trying to sign into my account so I can tell you where it is, but.
Huh. Yeah, kind of lost. You know what I need in the client settings dialog? A search field, so you can search everything that's available and it'll take you to the right section. Start. Yeah, I don't know. I'm lost on finding that option that we all know exists.
Just do a screen scrape, Jeff.
So it's in the web settings under meeting basics. Show Zoom windows during screen share.
Yeah, and that's true. This is there's a pretty good possibility that the Zoom account that I'm signed in with on the Mac probably doesn't have that option turned on. I don't use that account very often, so that's probably
are you doing an NDI's the current screen which you're sharing, is it an NDI capture?
Yeah, that's what's kind of
probably in the right hand side bottom, the screen grab, the screen share. You might probably want to right click on it, and you can, I think there must be an option there.
An option for what?
To show even the right click. So basically these pop-ups which comes.
Oh, but it's not a right click. It's just a drop-down list in the application. Let me do this portion of screen. And that, see, that ends up, it's filtered.
Do you have your phone with you?
That's weird. I don't know why the sound started coming through. And the NDI capture, that's the thing. The NDI capture that's capturing the screen or the app is.
Do you have vMix? Do you have vMix desktop capture installed on your Mac? So probably
no. We could try that one.
And is this capture, are you capturing the entire screen or just the application?
I was capturing the application, and I could show you what I'm showing you, but it won't show it. It won't show the drop downs, which is just bizarre to me because it should be capturing pixels. You know what I'm saying? And but like I just clicked on embedded audio on the first of the 4 choices, and on my screen, it's a drop down, off, all, and ISO. And you can see that it changed to shade of gray, but it doesn't display the drop down list. It's the first time I've ever had this happen.
I've seen that in OBS too when I'm
Is that right?
looking at a window grab, drop downs don't show up.
Yeah, so that generally it happens for me as well. So when you capture a specific window, we can't see the pop-ups. So if you actually screen grab the entire desktop or the monitor.
Yeah, but when I do the whole desktop with NDI screen capture, it won't show me the dialogue you're looking at all. It'll only show it's only capturing like Zoom, or for some reason it's respecting Zoom's ability to hide the Zoom windows. And that's what this window is right now.
What you might try, Jeff, is reveal the drop down or the pop up and then look at new share and see if it shows up as a different window.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Just the easiest way is right now, drop it down, take a screenshot.
The
and
challenge on that is when it's dropped down. Oh,
so another option.
And I click on scan converter to get to the options, then the drop down goes away. Huh, this is so weird.
Jeff, do you have an iPhone with you?
Sure.
Just call into the Zoom meeting with your iPhone and point it at the screen.
Yeah.
Or you can just drop it down and take a screenshot and probably put it in a
the old KISS approach, huh? The old KISS approach. Yeah, and man, it crossed my mind to set up my PTZ today, and I did not have time to get it done. And would have paid off right now. I'll connect with my iPad.
Jeff, while you're looking for this, do you mind if I just have a quick word with Hasmukh on the audio?
No, go ahead.
Hasmukh, when you're doing the audio in through HDMI into the ATM, I have an ATM mini ISO, and I will record all of the incoming audio channels. However, if I'm not wrong, what you need to do is in the app itself, in the Windows app, you need to go and tell which audio channel goes through when you mix the video, so that you don't drop an audio feed when you move from one HDMI input to the next. So you have to have the audio coming in through to all of the HDMI channels, so you don't lose the audio when you switch to a different HDMI input.
Yeah, I was thinking of that. And I have the ATEM ISO extended one. And if I'm bringing the audio through one of the HDMIs, then I assume I have to switch on audio follows video, because when I'm switching the different ISOs, then there's one audio that's going through. I assume I have to do that.
And that's configurable in the app itself, not on the ATM.
Yeah. I got you. Thanks for that. Appreciate it.
And don't forget, if you do that, is to bring the on the ZoomISO is to send out the same audio with all of the HDMI feeds.
That's what I was trying to ask Jeff to show me, because yeah. Okay, I'll report next week. I'm actually my main business is producing videos, so we do a lot of videos, training videos. So I want to put my head down and create some simple videos around ZoomISO, just for beginners. Yeah.
I can help
Because
you with that in any way. Just let me know. I've got lots
that'd be
of
cool.
laptops that we can just set up and stream stuff and have
Exactly.
virtual users.
Yeah, because Andy did that quite a bit with, on YouTube with ZoomOSC and Zoom, the first version of ZoomISO, but not that much with the new version. So I know they're planning it, but I thought while we're still in a learning curve, let's do what we can do as amateurs and see if we can help others as well.
Yeah.
My point is that I have a whole farm here that I use for the interpreting channels. So I can give you as many users that are real feeds for your.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. I'll most certainly call on you.
All right. The keep it simple method. Love it. Here's my left arm is going to be dead after the Zoom Test Kitchen now, holding this iPad. But anyways, so I just popped back out of Zoom. Why did it do that? See if it stays focused. Yeah, it's sharper if I just push it closer. All right. So anyways, this is the ZoomISO. There is, let's go here. Minimize the screen. All right. There's the ZoomISO client. It's a Zoom client. It's in gallery view right now.
No, we're not seeing it.
You're not seeing it.
Yeah,
it is.
you have to.
Here,
we're seeing you.
Spotlight that.
There you go. There you go.
There you go. Jeff iPad.
There. So I've got this Mac Mini. Monitor 1 and monitor 2. They're both connected to the Mac Mini. So my point here is now it's spotlight. Let me go to gallery so it's easier to see. Anyway, so that is ZoomISO. That's the ZoomISO client. I just want to tell you why, for anybody who thinks it's just kind of a separate tool, it's a Zoom client, okay? That's the main dialogue, if you will, as far as joining meetings and going to the settings and so forth. And then finally, this is the control panel or management console for ZoomISO. And so when you get here, if we go in and just do some initial config, if I can get my mouse set, I told it that I wanted 4 outputs, and therefore there's 4 outputs down here. I could bump that up and say, hey, give me 2 more and change it back on the fly and so forth. So I said, I want 4 outputs. I want you to default every output to 1080. Oops. And so you can change that from 90, 180. Can you hear me okay on my mic? I'm kind of to the side of it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And so you set your default resolution, although it can be changed independently. You set your frame rate. It defaulted to 2997. My vMix preset's 30, so I just matched it at 30. And then, hey, what do you want to do if you lose this person? And that is, well, make it black, freeze it, make it transparent, image or test card. And so you pick that. And so then you'll end up having these, in this case, my 4 outputs. You can give it names. So that's what shows up in vMix when I bring in NDI feeds, ZoomISO 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can change that. And then you say, well, what's it feeding me? And that's what those options are all about. It can feed me a participant. It can feed me the screen share. It can feed me the active speaker, right? So it can kind of self-manage itself. If you had just one output and you told it to feed you active speaker, as it changes active speaker in Zoom, it'll change what the capture is getting. It'll give you the spotlight and go back here, and then active screen share and gallery position as well. So with that, then because I've selected participant, I have a list of everybody in the meeting, and I can change that. So if I go over here to vMix to a side by side, and you can see in my other video, my main video, you see Mike and Marty. And in this one, you see Mike and Marty. And if I were to change Marty to John, you'll see that other video. Oh, did John go off camera? He might have gone off camera. We'll go to Robert, and it instantly changes there. So who else is up? Hasmuk is there. There's Hasmuk. And so just quick changes. So you can, you can on the fly change who. Now, that's a mouse driven example there, but all this is controllable. These are single buttons in the companion and Stream Deck, implementation. So the first screen, if I come over here to, did I not? Yeah, I brought the template. Thought I had this. This is the Stream Deck template that you can define groups and have callers. I didn't get this all updated and connected, so it's not displaying anything, but you can have the individuals. Like I have just a bunch of this was a template. I think it might be old for the version as well. I need to get it all updated, but you have the ability, you have caller 1, caller 2, and so forth in Zoom, and you can select, but the ideal is if it's like a multi-spotlighting thing, you can select, and then go and set them to, can I get the exposure right here? Set them to a group, and then that group is spotlightable. For instance, you can spotlight that group, and it could go poof and put up all 4 people that have been. So you take individuals and assign them to a group, and then you manage groups to spotlights and muting and raise hands or lower hands and so forth. But you also have ZoomISO presets, for instance. Let's see if I can get my companion window up here. And with this, if you wanted to, I'll kind of get a clean screen here. If I wanted to go into presets for ZoomOSC and ISO, then you have specifically some presets for ISO over here. So you have presets that are built in for selecting participants, ISO presets, group presets, user presets, and so forth. And so I will look at ISO presets, and you've got take outputs, start the ISO engine. Part of setting up that dialogue I was on a moment ago, selecting the outputs and so forth, is enabling the engine and kind of turning it all on. And so if I reference that real quickly while I talk about it, don't forget, if it's going to be your first time in, because I forgot today, I think it defaults to standing by. Make sure you enable the output engine, and because you can do all this setup up top but still be on standby, or so with that, you want to make sure you enable it. Well, then, so I've got Hasmuk on my other video window. that is my first selection here, but I can individually disable just Hazmat as well. So I can manage them individually. So make sure to enable it, get it configured, get it enabled, and then back to the companion choices. Presets, ISO presets, and then you just start just play with these things, drag a bunch of them out there, and when you drag out, let's say, output 1, then what is there's output 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then pull in some others to see, and then you always have the variables that are system-based variables, like what names are there and so forth. So you can populate the buttons with the values of variables if that is what it would require, and all that. So I'm going to lay that down for a second, rest my arm. But so many choices out there, and I don't have an organized, but I promise you I will have a kind of an organized workshop kind of from that. But I want to make sure that today we at least have talked about, and if not shown, getting it initially, installed in a working mode, right? And then you start identifying the needs. I want to be able to do what, and we can start chasing those items down. So thoughts, get some hands up. Well, we had a couple, yeah, there's the 2 again. Anyways, Marty, what you got?
Well, I'm was really happy to see you show the control screen, because I hadn't seen that yet. By the way, we're seeing a black screen in speaker view. So that's really interesting. I was raising my hand because I had a question about ZoomOSC. Yep. If we can go there. So I've got it. I've got ZoomOSC on a PC, and I've got Companion set up with a bunch of buttons for gallery position. And I have not been able to get that to work reliably. And I'm not sure why. What I have seen happen is that when I get on a call with 3 or 4, however many people, the Stream Deck buttons will populate, but then if I switch to speaker view, they will depopulate.
Yeah, and that's because the ZoomOSC Zoom meeting client that it kind of mostly looks like Zoom, right? If that is not in gallery view, it can't know where everybody is. So it's dependent on it being in gallery view for it to be able to populate a Stream Deck looking for who's in what position in gallery. They're totally tied together. Okay. And so if there's updates that should be taking place, but you're in speaker view, they won't update until you switch back to gallery view. That's that. And the tough part about that, and maybe there's a better solution, but like I go, and that's a good reason not to have ZoomOSC client doing anything but just running, right? With the exception of if they're spotlighting people, it's going to pop that client out of gallery view into spotlight view, and I'm not 100% sure if that's curable or not. So Hazmat.
Yeah, you can use gallery or you can use target ID, and target ID will then stick to whatever Zoom ID is allocated to each participant or attendee in the meeting. So it's not dependent on the gallery view. the buttons will react to whatever you have on screen, whereas the target ID doesn't.
So, that's interesting. So while I was speaking just a moment ago, all the buttons were populated, and I have two. I have the vanilla client open and my ZoomOSC client open. The ZoomOSC client is in gallery view. So when I was talking just a moment ago saying how it didn't work, my buttons were actually populated. Right now, they're not populated, and I didn't make any changes in ZoomOSC. Now, the other thing is that I have buttons that are showing me gallery position, and I have buttons that are showing me participants position, pre-select user group, and the variable is participant number. Those buttons seem very stable. But
Is
the
that
gallery
not the
position,
same? Is that not the same as target ID?
it's not saying target ID that, let's see, hang on. No, it's participant, ZoomOSC participant. So if I go look at another button and I look for it.
I'm just saying, Marty, that's probably equivalent to target ID because that ID is stuck to that participant Zoom ID. So in ZoomOSC, you can get a list of all the target IDs in the listing function of ZoomOSC, and that's how you populate the button. Then you know who's sitting where.
So I'm getting that button by going into presets, and there's a select participant preset.
Exactly.
That's the ID you're saying?
Yeah. That's the target ID.
Okay. So that seems very stable, but the gallery position is not reliable at all.
Gallery position is exactly what it says. So if you change let's say you take your gallery and you change it to speaker view or active speaker view, or you pin two people, those buttons will change completely.
Yeah. Okay.
Or if someone puts their hand up like I did.
Correct.
Right.
I think Robert just admitted he broke it for you.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
So I'm going to bring my iPad camera back into play here for a second. And so I can do it on my screen just the same. So let me double click and make this bigger. And let's see if I can spotlight. There we go. Later.
You just share the screen, right?
Well, I could probably just do a screen share. But anyways, so I just built this, and I just wanted to point out the simplicity of getting started and just daring to try, right? And that is, take a new page and you say, I want this to be the people in my meeting. And so you go to presets and ZoomOSC and select participants, and you can see they're already there. I mean, it's already populated them. And realize I didn't turn my iPad, so I'm going to go there, go to presets, ZoomOSC, select participants, and they're already there and populated. Just drag them in. And while I'm doing this again, you guys go ahead and talk, raise your hand, mute, unmute, and watch these Stream Deck buttons come alive.
Yeah, you can see I unmuted and it goes red.
Yep.
Now, is there a way to automate this process? on a new meeting.
This is automated.
No,
So
I mean, dragging
it, no, you don't have
them
to.
in.
You don't have to build this every time. If I had this laid out and I left this meeting and joined a new one, it'll just repopulate it with the new participants,
Right.
and it will still have the all this, if you will, sensor data or feedback data over here on the right. So that's why it's doing it. So those presets are pre-built with also the feedback information, which this one is their mic live. The second one is their hand raised. The next one is, are they the active speaker? If I scroll down a little more, there's one more. Are they, if they're yellow, they're selected, which means they're selected on the Stream Deck. And so they're selected. Now what? And then you hit the next button and you say spotlight them or mute them, so they're actually selected. So, I mean, I've got a usable page for 14 participants. I could drag them and fill them all if I wanted to as well. But it's a really easy way to just get started and give it a shot, right? And everything, I mean, the preset makes it an easy, quick start, super useful and really powerful. But everything about those presets is rechoosable as well. If you wanted them to be different indicated colors or whatever, you can change all that too. It just makes the monotony of building the same actions and feedback under every button, it just takes that away, which is great. Robert, what you got?
Just want to share, because some of my experience with Companion and Elgato's Stream Decks and ZoomOSC. I've been listening to Andy coming on here on the Zoom Test Kitchen for ages, and I didn't have a clue what he was talking about initially. But what I realized is that there are clever ways to do things. And one of the things that I do now is I've noticed that you actually spend a lot of time in Companion defining what you want to do for a specific meeting. And so what I've done is once I've finished a meeting with a specific layout, I will copy that page to say page 99 or 98 and keep them there as templates. And then when I need them, just copy that back onto page 1 and I have it on my Stream Deck ready to go. And then I can just edit it, use it, and I'm ready to go. So this building of layouts is time consuming, but there's a clever way of doing it and just saving them as later pages so that when you go into page 1 and you're busy trying to edit something, you don't lose what you've already created and spent so much time on.
Well, and I think there's an added category to that. Are you building a custom layout, which is very show specific, or are you building an intended reusable layout? Because reusable layouts are they're magic. I mean, you could have page 1 get automatically. I mean, it's page 1's buttons say, show me the system variable. The system variable is the name of the person in position 1, the name of the person in position 2, the name of the person in position 3. If there's nobody in that position in the gallery, there's no name. The moment somebody shows up in that position, it instantly populates their name. That is a reusable button or page of buttons that are there. And so those can become super, super useful. Then, and maybe that's a page of, all these buttons except the right row or column ends up being pen, spotlight, mute, so you hit them and you hit the action, you hit them. So now when you hit them, it's a select. and now this companion knows they're selected, and then the ZoomOSC modules, you say, spotlight or mute or unmute or whatnot. It is programmed not just to spotlight, but to spotlight the selected items. And so you select, spotlight, and the spotlight is spotlighting the currently selected items. And so those are completely reusable for any show or meeting that you jump into. And you can do that for a number of things. You on another page, I've done hand raising. Well, in my world, I only need like 6 buttons for hand raises, because it gets populated with somebody who has their hand raised. It has nothing to do with position. It's just, do they have their hand raised? Yes, they do, and they do, and they do. So the first 3 out of the 6 buttons are now populated. And so if I'm always, and it's always the first one to, let's say, the 6th one, and what do I want to do? Then I can, tailor that button that says, hey, when there's hand raised, populate them. So that's maybe on page 2 or 3 or whatever, the stream deck. When I press it, it unmutes them or asks to unmute, and it adds a spotlight, right? So they come up next to, let's say, the moderator, and then it lowers their hand. And there's a timing there, like when do you want to lower their hand? Sometimes it's when they're finished, because if something goes wrong, I still want them to be easily refindable, even with a mouse. So I don't usually lower people's hands while they're spotlit or still talking, only because it's a total safety net. If something goes wrong, and I've had 900 plus people in a meeting, I can't find them again, and I don't remember their name, and so, but if I leave their hand up until they're actually done, I lower their hand, mute them, and unspotlight them, all in one button. But I do it at the end. So anyways, there are reusable pieces, and then, like Robert said, there's custom ones as well. But if you reusability, I would say, mostly comes from using system variables. That's in Companion, because those are dynamically, they're values that are populated by the presence of people who have joined the meeting, and so they're reusable. Custom layout, I mean, I had a total custom layout, in a sense, that I built my stream deck to the run of show. So I literally had buttons that were scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, so that I could just progress through it, and it knew who to spotlight. That's really too tight. Commonly, it's right down to these 3 people or these 6 on this scene or whatnot. But it was one of those things. I thought it made sense, and it worked. But I had to tear it down. I've never been able to use it again, and so I'd rather use a, now with the selection, like selecting didn't used to exist. And so now that you can select 1 or more people, and define them to a group, now I could do scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and have those buttons do something to those group 1s, group 2s, and so forth, right? And so all that becomes reusable, where the scenes might need to just be tailored. So yeah, there's multiple approaches. It's a tool that's super, super flexible, In the simplest sense, I'm just managing Zoom meetings, and I want it to be easier and faster and so forth. But in the other sense, when you're doing full-on productions. But the fact is we want buttons that you just hit. Output 1 in ZoomISO is this person. Output 2 is this person, and you can just change that on the fly. And that's the thing. You have a list of like Hasmik said, by target IDs, you have a list of everybody on the buttons, and you select them, hit output 1. Select them, hit output 2. Select them, hit output 3. And that's managing those feeds into my world, into vMix, the 4 inputs that are the NDI inputs, and you're just managing what's coming across, who is coming across in those inputs on the fly. So it's pretty doggone slick. There's tons more to come. I mean, I can't wait to, spend a little bit of time with Andy and, what they're going to talk about and announce and so forth, and really, dedicate some Zoom Test Kitchen time to this with some much more organized labs, if you will, and really get our hands on and start thinking outside the box and all. So
to put a footnote on something that Robert said, you can actually export individual pages and save them as files that you can then import back in. So to save your templates, you don't need to take up extra pages at the back of your companion or Stream Deck file. You can export them as pages, export a page as a file, and then keep a folder of all your files, your pages.
So, I would have sworn it did that until today. I was getting set up, and I had some companion or Stream Deck pages on my PC that I wanted in my Mac because I was going to plug it into my Mac instead. And I went to export. Keep in mind, I'm running the latest beta companion. Okay, so that I'm not on the released. I'm beyond that, I guess. And there is only, so I'm on a page. I'm on page 3, looking at a few buttons, the ones we just dragged in there. And I go to the import export tab, and there's an import config.
No, that's not where it is.
Where's the page export?
It's right on the image of the Stream Deck itself. So where all the buttons are?
Copy, move, delete,
No,
wipe,
up.
and
It's on the
reset.
top above the image to the right.
Right of it. Yeah. There it is.
There you go. Export page.
Yep, export
I
page.
just found that myself.
Yeah, it's staring us in the face, so we don't even pay attention to it. So yeah, okay. So yeah, the export page. I did the export full config. I mean, it's just a text file, because then you can, even if you work off of an export full config, which is a great backup practice, when you import from that full, you can still import just a single page out of it, so out of all the pages, you can just import the selected pages. So yeah, it's pretty daggone flexible for sure. It's a great point to bring up, but I'm glad you brought it up, because I really did. I could not find that export page, and there it is, staring me right in the face. Cool.
I guess it's worth also mentioning, Jeff, if there's anyone who's just starting to use ZoomISO or OSC, that there are a lot of templates available. So you don't have to start building from scratch.
Where's that library these days? Because their Slack channel is going offline. November 1st, their liminal Slack is gone.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll have to chase Andy down on that one and see maybe where that if that's going to live somewhere. Yeah, I just posted last night kind of a, hey, I know that this Slack channel is getting put to rest. I invite you to join the kitchen, either here or the Discord or, YouTube, whatever. And so at least let people know, give them an option of kind of where do they go next. And so anyways,
that is actually super important, because those templates have a lot of knowledge in them. It's a really good place to go and look for how to do things.
Yeah, remember, the very first one who really set the standard was Benjamin, right? Benjamin, he's the one who came up with that kind of first template that really started getting shared a lot, and it gave us something to kind of start with, right? Frank's great. He's in the chat. He says, Zoom Test Kitchen Discord. He's been the one pinging me on the Discord channel. Hey, it'd be nice if we had a channel for this or a channel for that. I'm like, you're right on. So he's absolutely right. I'll create a ZoomISO ZoomOSC template channel so that people can drop it there.
Just to give some context to who Benjamin is, because Benjamin came from a theater background and he could create these templates on the fly. He was so good at it. And
he was in high school when he first joined everybody, right? It's just like super sharp kid.
I remember him now. Yeah.
Yeah. Benjamin Antiput. He's actually.
There's a picture of him on this, and when you do the entry video, there's a picture of him on there.
I was going to bring up my YouTube channel because he's one that's very visible in the background picture that I built there. Zoom test, good job. Let's see everybody who's visible. I haven't paid tons of attention to this, but let's take a look. So if I share screen one, okay, so who's there? So this is Benjamin, right? That's Benjamin. Can you see that okay? Yeah, that's not bad. Pete is there. This is Leo. Someone's gonna have to help me with this gentleman's name. Talk to me. This is Michelle McCormick. Let's see. Oh, there's David Brady. There's my sour-looking mug. This is Doug, the colorist, office hours colorist. Here's a little top head of Ed. There's John Edelson. There's me again. There's Josh. Yeah, kind of brings back some memories on some that we don't see anymore or haven't seen in a while. But yeah, Benjamin was great. Super.
Benjamin had this unique ability to create these virtual users on Zoom to test things. He could bring up hundreds of users that from nowhere. I still don't understand how he did that.
I still have that batch file.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the that I would imagine it might still be a benefit of the ZoomOSC ZoomISO client is that you could launch it multiple times on the same machine. But he had further scripts than that to set their, profile picture different, because I think they all logged in to possibly the same account, but they updated the profile picture and then it used a virtual background for all the so-called people in the meeting, because it needed to be video on, not video off, right? So it was amazing. And it only took a matter of moments to spin all these up. It was crazy cool. These guys have gone through a lot. I tell you, Andy and Jonathan and Benjamin and all the others behind the scene that, have and continue to develop has just been amazing.
Good night, everybody. I gotta go.
But why? Because it's very dark outside. Good night.
I'm about to leave as well. It's coming up to midnight, so good night.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the time flies. It's been over 2.5 hours. So we should wrap up. So
Jeff, I think Rohit had a question in the chat.
Oh, in the chat? Oh, there it is. Have not used it would be OSC or companion course question. Stream Deck is connected to Windows or the Mac. So with my description of, I have PC with vanilla Zoom running and hosting the meeting, then I have my Mac over to the side running ZoomISO client, joined the meeting. I am running companion over there, and my Stream Deck is plugged in over there on the Mac to the Mac as well. And but to operate the show itself, if you will, the pre-roll, and when we leave, I'll do a post-roll and so forth. Those buttons are also on my Stream Deck, but it has to talk back to vMix on the PC. So it could be the other way. I could be here and what, let me bring this up real quick. If I do a share screen over here to this screen, boy, it turns the sound on every time it happens. Check, check, check. It's still on. Hang on. Check, check, check. What?
While Jeff is fixing his audio, I'll also make a comment too that there's also a new companion app by BitFocus called Companion Satellite. And what Companion Satellite will allow you to do is basically allow you to have one companion on the network, but you could actually have your Stream Deck plugged in to any other computer on the network, and it actually will work with that companion server that's sitting on the network, and the companion satellite will connect up to the main companion server and will allow it to be like a bridge, so you don't have to be on the local network anymore, my understanding.
Yeah, that's the way I understand it as well. I'm still listening, to be honest.
When I read it, it seemed to be like any other computer or device on the local network. I was wondering if there was a way to control a device across the internet.
Well, in theory, while Jeff is still working on his audio issue, in theory, you could actually VPN in, and then you can use the companion satellite to talk to the companion that is local on the local network.
Very interesting.
Right? So
Yeah.
if you're here and the studio is in a different country or a different wherever, as long as it's got an internet connection and you can VPN into it, in theory, if there's an ATEM there, you can control it with Companion, you can control vMix with Companion, as long as all the main hardware is local on that local network within that studio, you should be fine.
So if the studio has a virtual machine with ZoomISO, and I could log into it from home, and then operate it with my Stream Deck.
Right, but ZoomISO virtual machine, then you'd have to do a Hackintosh type of virtual machine running, and of course you wouldn't be utilizing the M1 chip then at that point for ZoomISO. But I see where you're going with this, Marty. You could, in theory, have Companion in a VM in that local network, yes, and whatever other software that you wanted on that VM as well. Yes, absolutely.
Bye. Yes, hear me?
Yeah, didn't echo that time, Jeff.
Yeah, I kind of echoing locally though.
You're coming through another input, or where are you coming in? Because I see you muted, so you're magically coming in somehow.
He was coming through his ZoomISO machine, but he's just muted that as well now.
Okay.
Do you know, sometimes we just get a bit too clever for our own good and we get in the mix, don't we?
Yeah.
You know you're a bit advanced when every time somebody asks a question, you can think of 3 different ways you can do it in your office, and then you've got to work out which way is the most economical.
Yeah, and then of course vMix throws it into the wrench too, because it does an awesome job allowing you doing 20 things the same way at the same time too. So
yeah.
Oh, we don't hear you now, Jeff.
How about now? No? Okay. So Andy warned me. I upgraded to Ventura. I was upgrading to Ventura. I said, can I go to Ventura and not, cause any issue with ISO? And he said, yeah, that's fine. He says, but you might have an issue with loopback. Well, I have loopback, but I don't really use it very actively. So that's kind of not in play, but it's the same company. And I do use their like sound source, which is, equalizer and stuff for the Mac. And this is the second time it's happened, when I share, it kicks sound source's butt to where the volume's all the way up. I can't mute it. There's definitely a problem. So anyways, it's a bit of a challenge. Apologize for that. My point was going to be back to Rohit's question. I'm sharing this screen, and when you are you on the PC? His question was, do I have Companion in my Stream Deck on the PC and or the Mac? The flexibility. So I am physically plugged into the Mac, and Companion's running on the Mac, but I still need to manage just a few buttons. I think it's on page 1: pre-show, start the stream, go live, post-show, and then kill the streams. That's the Zoom Test Kitchen left to right, and then toggling my mic. But the way I do that, even though it's plugged in over on the Mac right now, is you have to add that connection for vMix. vMix is there now. It's a module, and you go in to edit that, and I'm just pointing it to the IP address of my PC. And I could do just the opposite of that if I was plugged into my PC with Companion, but I could put in the IP of the Mac and where the ZoomISO client is. So it speaks IP, right? That's where it transports it to. So it naturally private IP addresses don't traverse across the internet. The 192.168s, the 127s. 127 is local loopback, but if you want it to be routable and go from here to there, that's the VPN, because a VPN will securely connect from here to there. There can be anywhere around the world, and then it treats everything here connected with your VPN to that destination as if it were literally physically plugged into their network. And so that can work just as well. The other solutions that are taking place, go over the cloud, and they keep things secure. I don't know exactly if it's SSL or beyond, HTTPS, but that same kind of, remote connectivity. But up to this point, office hours as well, I believe is doing all the remote switching and so forth with Stream Decks. I did, and we did that Tesla factory launch down in Austin, Texas a few months back. Jonas just sent me an open VPN file, and I just launched it. So I got the VPN, and then I got a Companion template. I imported it, and I switched the whole show from my Stream Deck, and I never saw vMix. It wasn't my vMix. It was their vMix, whether it's cloud. I think it was all cloud-based, but I never saw it. I just switched it.
Jonas's back end is all in AWS. The vMix is sitting in the cloud.
That's right. So yeah, it's all quite doable, but you have to keep it secure. I mean, could you do port forwarding and this and that? Yes, but
dangerous.
It can be very dangerous. So anyways, yeah, it's kind of cool, the flexibility we've got these days for sure. Well, we're going to leave it at that. Let's see. Kill the share. There we go. But it's been fun. When I return, Zoomtopia is the 8th and 9th in just over a week. I'll be there. I'll get back late Wednesday night, and Zoom Test Kitchen on the 11th. I'll post while I'm there as well, but I'll do a review on the 11th for sure, and we'll have some things to talk about, I'm sure, on their announcements, based on their announcements. Guess that's it. We'll definitely, have these ZoomISO, ZoomOSC sessions, especially when I've got work that, I can lay down some templates that, really contributed to something real. And so it should be really relatable, and you guys can do the same. Welcome you to do it. There's still a free version of OSC. There's a free version of, or I guess there's a trial version of ISO, and then there's I don't remember what they called it, but there's a basic version, Essentials, I think. But really inexpensive, and Companion's free. All everything you've seen in Companion is free, and you don't have to have a Stream Deck. Fact is if I share one last time before we call it a day, if I share the screen again, once you've got some page that you deem useful for the show, you can launch the emulator. And if I dare press these, I'll mute. I'm unmuted. So it becomes a functional virtual Stream Deck right on screen. So it's clickable. You can bring that up in a, this URL right here, 120, this one is 127, but my machine has an IP address as well. So I could hit that with 192.168 1.whatever /emulator and the port number 888. And it would come up on my tablet. So now I have a touch device, my phone, my tablet, all that. And this is all free. That's one. There's the web buttons as well. So that's the emulator. There's web buttons. The advantage, I think, to web buttons is they become scrollable pages of layouts. And so that's kind of endless. And one of these, I don't think it's this one, you can actually tell it to kill some of the extra stuff. The mobile buttons. So now you can jump forward and or top to bottom, change pages. So you don't really have to scroll. You can, but you don't have to scroll. You can click on it like you do on a device, and then they have new web, and then it just looks more. It's not quite like, it's not exactly the emulator, but it's really, really close. And you can full screen this. You can set some options on page ranges, rows, and columns, hide the configure button, hide the full screen button, hide the page headings, and you can just clean it up for your use as well.
Yeah,
So,
the other ones that they actually now support Companion now is, I want to say the old X keys, but I don't want to say X keys being old, but they were the original push button guys before the Stream Decks came around. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, they're still very valid, right? And a lot of them out there, but yeah, Stream Deck simplified it, made it even more affordable. I mean, Companion makes it free, and you don't even have to buy a device. But if you do buy a device, there's a bunch to choose from. So super cool. You can get into it and help automate and streamline your shows pretty inexpensively for sure in this department.
So you can actually bring that up on a phone, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so the 127.0.0.1 address will get you nowhere. That's always a local loopback address. But if you're on your phone on Wi-Fi in the same network as your PC, let's say, you just have, if you're in the phone, you use the IP address of the computer / the emulator extended piece of that URL. It'll come up on your phone or your iPad or whatnot.
What about
and Marty, from a network standpoint, what I would do too is if you want to always hard code that into like an iPad or an iPhone or whatever tablet, is to actually make sure that your PC that has Companion running on it all the time gets a static DHCP. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
What about the new mobile buttons? I mean, the fact that they're calling it mobile buttons, does that mean that it's formatted or it can be called up? Because I'm doing that now. I'm calling it up. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see.
Yeah.
Trying to bring it up on my phone, make sure I got the right address in there.
Now you may have to go into the Companion config and actually use the network IP instead of the loopback IP. So you might have to double check your Companion config for that too. Okay. Because there is that little drop down on Companion on the main screen when you pull it up, and it'll give you the different choices of which IP it should be listening on.
Yeah, and I think the easiest easiest way to, I think, get it right, if nothing else, is I get things set up, and let's say, and the new mobile buttons, I think they're just prettier. Here's the original ones, very square 90-degree corners and all. Here's the new mobile, a little bit bigger for touchability and curved like the physical Stream Deck. Just I think it just looks better and probably feels better there. But when you pop up one of these, if you wanted the new mobile, here's your URL. Now it's 127.0.0.1. Well, the question is, why is it 127.0.0.1? It's when I started Companion.
Yeah, what I would check, Jeff,
that's what I did. And so
yeah, by default Companion, when you install it by default, it wants you it'll automatically go to the loopback IP.
yeah,
So you actually physically have to go in
it's
there
not,
and actually change it.
yeah, well, you can do it on launch though, was going to be what I showed. So if I and I always look on the bottom because of my PC, it's in the tray up top here. So when you let's say I'm going to quit Companion completely, and I'm going to relaunch it. And so I launch it, its dialog will pop up, and right here is where it defaults to that 127.0.0.1 port 8888. Here you can say, no, don't use that. Use the IP address of this computer. So same result, right? With the exception of now this is a travelable address across your local network. So I'm going to select that and then click launch the GUI. Now you can see that it's there at that address. And when I pop up an emulator, there's the exact URL you can put into a mobile device, is the IP address of the machine, the exact port of that the Companion software, and a tablet 3, which gets you to the new mobile. And that you can literally copy and paste and email to yourself, open it on email in your mobile device and click on it, and it will open this page for you. So without having to translate a whole bunch of things, you can just launch Companion to the IP versus that 127 local loopback IP.
Yeah, it's basically all that page is that Jeff is showing you is literally, it's just a little baby web server that is built into Companion that is sitting there, and that is literally just an HTML page.
All right. Get enough, Marty.
Uh,
Well, and keep. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming you've probably seen all this. You being an audio guy and all, but under connections and adding a connection, give me the name of one of your advanced audio boards, for instance.
Well, guaranteed, I know for sure. There's Allen and Heath is in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if Marty, if you're using
there's
Allen Heath or not.
Yamaha has written companion modules. Lots of Allen and Heath have written companion modules.
All the Behringers.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
For sure. The X32 is in there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the X32s are actually OSC machines. It's all driven by OSC.
Here's a
perfect.
wing. So when you add that, then you go into edit, give it the name, give it the IP of the mixer.
Biro Heat.
And away you go. And then, I mean, the whole reason you do that is so you have access to the library that they've written. And so when you create a new button and you go to, well, I'm not connected, so it's not going to load it for me. But here's variables for the wing. And man, they got a ton. Oh my goodness. But anyways, this companion's huge, even I'd say especially for sound guys,
Yeah. Marty too. There's DMX. There's DMX in there as well as audio, as well as cameras. I know I'm for our camera brand that launching soon. I'm actually finishing up our companion module as well, and our cameras will be controlled by that.
Very cool. Yeah, it can be. Where was that? It can issue commands that other devices and software will respond to, and those commands can be either TCP, UDP, HTTP standard commands, OSC, DMX.
Yep. ArtNet is in there too, I think.
Yep. ArtNet and ROStalk.
Yep.
Of all things.
Yeah.
For ROS video switchers.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Again, they have their own protocol. So yeah.
Ember Plus, whatever that is. I don't know Ember Plus. But yeah, it's powerful for sure.
Oh yeah, companion is absolutely powerful. And again, the great thing too is that if you want multiple things to do multiple things at the same time, it could be all one button. Literally, you could say it literally just goes and then it sends everything out to.
Well, sometimes it does it so fast you have to put delays in them.
Right. Understood. Yes.
So easy to do. All right. It's so easy to do. Put delays.
But
if
these
you want
days
certain things to make sure they finish first before other things, of course, yes, absolutely. But
it even it supports triggers now as well. So you can do triggers. This is based on feedback, based on the time interval, based on time of day. And that can cause a trigger that then you can set, variable values to, and it's crazy. It's just amazing what it can pull off. So it didn't used to be a decision maker. Companion was not a decision making tool. That's where Andy would always go to Isadora, and I mean, there's no real comparison there. This is a very lightweight decision maker, but it's
at this point,
become a decision maker as well. So it's pretty cool. Well, very good. I'm going to wrap, guys.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Is that a 16 or a 32, Marty?
That's an XR18, or it could be it depends on which one I brought up.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll call that a wrap, and I'll look to see you guys next week. And it's been good hanging out.
You got it.
Thanks, Jeff. Everybody else, take care. Thank you.
Bye, Marty. Check the chat before you leave, Marty. Got it, Marty?
See you. Thanks.
You got it. If you're into Linux, let's say Linux Mint.